I thought it would be easier the more I talked about leaving MAGA, being a 3-time Trump voter, but I have to be completely honest with you that it's not getting easier, and it actually feels like it's getting more difficult because I'm gaining more empathy. And I don't think people really realize how counterintuitive the hate that I receive when you can take one look at my page and see that I am doing the work.
A lot of people have already addressed in their responses to this idea that deconstruction includes the discomfort. You don't get to just set that part of the deconstruction aside and expect it not to be painful or uncomfortable at points. And I really hope that you have been watching and listening to those responses and taking them to heart. But I want to address another aspect of this video that I have yet to see addressed. And in case you're just someone who's watching and this is your first introduction to this creator posted this video and has been torn apart, let's say, but has also received a lot of empathetic responses because in this video, she cried and talked about how difficult it can be as a former MAGA voter, 3-time MAGA voter, to deconstruct when the left is expressing their anger. People have rightfully so called out that this video feels like she is, centering herself, her pain, her experience, her discomfort, when decentering herself has to be part of the deconstruction. She is part of the perpetration of harm. And so demanding that the victims of your harm respond to you or speak to you in a certain way you just don't get to do that. You don't get to make demands of your victims. I understand the perspective of people who say that we on the left have to be welcoming. We have to be ready to be nice to the people who are deconstructing. We cannot scare them away by, vocalizing our anger, especially when it's coming from people on the left who want to build this coalition and welcome them in. At the same time, while we can have these theoretical conversations about how welcoming we should be, number one, it's not really up to the right to dictate those conversations or to dictate that response. And number two, even if that were to become the prevailing opinion of people on the left, we should be nice to the people who are abandoning ship. The fact of the matter is, you're never going to get everyone to feel that way. And there are always going to be people that you harmed that are going to want to express that anger with you. So instead of focusing on policing the behaviors and reactions of the people that you spent years harming, let's maybe focus on deconstruction that doesn't require any specific type of reaction from them. I don't think that you cannot have these moments. I think it's perfectly natural for this process to hurt, for you to have moments where you are feeling sorry for yourself, ultimately. And I even think that there's a world in which you can share those moments publicly without that, getting the same sort of backlash. I mean, you'll always get backlash from someone, but I think that there's a way to have done it that was less centering and more productive. But what this video was actually about, which so many people seem to be missing, is you were responding to someone else's comment. And that other person was talking about how even though they themselves were deconstructing religiously, because of the reactions from the left, they will never join or align themselves with another party, religion, and will never vote blue. They will never speak up about the harm that they helped cause while they were MAGA. They act as though the hate they receive from the left is exactly the same, no different from the hate that people receive from MAGA. And that's simply not true. And you should theoretically know this if you have actually conducted any sort of deconstruction that you're claiming to have conducted. You not only validated the sentiment, which that I can understand because it is a very human sentiment. You also validated the conclusion. And instead of taking the opportunity to speak to that commenter, that person who is claiming to deconstruct but announcing that they are not interested in doing any of the real work, you took that as an opportunity to speak to everyone else, the left, to tell them, see, this is why you should be nice to us. And going, see, if you're not nice to us, we're not gonna do the work, which, by the way, sounds a lot like extortion. The real work isn't you changing your beliefs. That's what you don't seem to understand. The actual important work, with any actual impact, is going to be undoing the harm. Your beliefs don't matter. They don't. I don't care what dogma you ascribe to. Most people don't. You can believe in whatever you want to believe. It only becomes a problem when you act on those beliefs in a way that's harmful to others. So changing what you believe while refusing to undo the harm that you helped to perpetrate doesn't get you a gold star. So commenters, like the one that you responded to and validated in their conclusion, are misunderstanding what it actually means to do said work. While deconstruction requires sitting in that discomfort, what your victims actually need from you isn't exactly your discomfort. It's your action. And I think just by perusing your profile a little bit, this may be something that you really need to hear. Because based on the few videos I've watched, granted, it is just a few of them, you are spending a lot more time speaking to the left than you are to the right. You're spending most of your time talking to the people who already know all this, trying to get them to understand you. And I'm not saying you can't or shouldn't do that at all. We can all stand to learn what's going on in each other's minds. But getting the left to understand MAGA does a lot less than getting MAGA to understand the left. And if you really, really care about undoing the harm that you did, you need to spend less time convincing us to forgive people like you and to be nice to people like you, and spend more time speaking to MAGA and talk to them about why not only what they believe in is wrong, but also why they shouldn't feel entitled to be coddled through their realizations. This could have been an incredible moment for you, where you could have addressed this commenter and therefore anyone watching who feels similarly, and pointed out that just chalking this all up to everyone is equally as bad is not the answer. Refusing to stand up and do what's right is not deconstruction. That what that commenter was doing was centering themselves. That their expectation of the left being nice to them and immediately forgiving them shows that they have no real cognizance of the harm they perpetrated. This was your opportunity to speak to the real problem. And instead, you chose to speak to the victims of it. You may truly believe that the best way for people to behave around MAGA that are deconstructing is to welcome them with open arms. The more effective solution is probably going to be talking to people who are deconstructing and walking them through the process that is not going to coddle them. Helping them to understand that deconstructing from a harmful ideology is not about your feelings, but about doing what's right. Like calling someone out when they act as entitled as that commenter did. You know, as kindly and calmly as you would like to, of course, but without letting people get away with the self-victimization and refusal to take real responsibility. We are not anti-fascist because we all believe we're going to get along and be friends. We are anti-fascist because fascism is wrong. That's why so many people are mean and angry, because they see a lot of self-describing deconstructors who aren't actually taking responsibility for the harm that they've caused. People mistrust it because time and time again, this so-called regret appears to be more about people finally experiencing negative consequences rather than those people fully being cognizant of the negative consequences they caused others. People are dead because of you. And a lot more horrible things are happening because of you. This is simply not about your feelings, unfortunately. But if you believe that deconstructors need that empathy and patience as they work through the responsibility that they need to take, then you should be that person. You be the one that shows up with kindness and empathy. But don't let them get away with what you're letting this commenter get away with. I have a lot more to say, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that.